This month is going to be short and simple. 2 East Asian giant monster movies, one belonging to the Japanese Toho Studios, which brought us Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and more, and one that's a South Korean knockoff of King Kong. Let's start with the Toho movie that not many people remember, apparently. It's Varan the Unbelievable, aka Giant Monster Varan, or just Varan. With how successful Godzilla was over in the US, ABPT, or American Broadcasting Paramount Theaters, approached Toho in 1957 to co-produce a new kaiju movie that could air on television. The intent was to film it in 3 parts, which would align with American broadcasting standards at the time, including commercial breaks. Producer Tomoyuki Tanaka even assigned a low budget to ensure some profit was made, given who they were working with. While that sounds really cool that there was enough interest to work with an overseas studio for giant monster films, things fell apart when ABPT collapsed during production, meaning the film would be restructured into a theatrical movie. But that led to many issues. For one thing, they were already in the middle of production when this happened, and they couldn't just start over. Hell, they had to do what they did for the Japanese release of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and blowing up the film to the theatrical widescreen format, since it wasn't going on TV anymore. Now, Ken Koronuma was asked by Tanaka to write the film's story, after his success with Rodan, wanting to keep it simple and basic. Shinichi Sekizawa, who would later write the screenplay for Mothra in 1961, was tasked with writing the screenplay in what would be his first kaiju movie, with early drafts going by Monster of the East. And finally, directing duties would fall upon, you guessed it, Ishiro Honda, as he's so used to these kaiju movies, having already directed 2 Godzilla movies, Rodan, and the science fiction epic, The Mysterians. Despite the setbacks that I'm sure to bring up, the movie would see a US release in 1961, where it was heavily altered, with new footage produced by Jerry A. Barwitz, and written by Sid Harris. I will not be going over that movie, as I am going to focus on the original Japanese release from 1958. With all that said, let's take a look at the movie that had such a troubled production, and see if it can make me a believer in the unbelievable. This is Varan. We open with this really neat bust of some Japanese demon or something during the opening title card. Also, the version of the movie I'm using has subtitles, but I guess they were either ripped or subbed incorrectly or something. It's also the best quality version I can find, so forgive me for it not looking so good. There's also a text crawl that is untranslated, but it's just the cast and crew list. We're also treated to another compelling instrumental by the legendary Akira Ifukube, who has done work for Godzilla and Rodan by this point, and would score more kaiju films in the following decades. I also want to point out that, because this was intended for American television, the movie was shot in black and white, even though they've been filming in color since Rodan in 1956. Appropriately, this would be the last time they would do a kaiju movie in this format. Anyway, we see a rocket launch take place, signifying that they're on the brink of the space age. The outer space is full of mystery, just as it is on Earth. I mean, it's appropriate, considering how recently you had a giant radioactive reptile, and 2 giant pterodons. What do you think you're gonna find that wasn't here before? Well, let's find out. We cut over to Professor Tsukimoto's biology class, with said professor, played by Korei Yasenda, showing the class a pair of white butterflies that are said to only live in Siberia, but a boy found them here in Japan. So they sent a pair of scientists to what they call the Tibet of Japan, in Tohoku, to check it out. The 2 scientists try to learn more about the butterflies at Iwaya village, but the people aren't responsive. They do learn about the god of Baradagi, but otherwise just keep on going while hearing strange sounds. Perhaps this is them acknowledging the other kaijus this country has had in the last few years? Well, they found the butterfly they were looking for, and something found them. Well, I think Baradagi just got them. Even the papers mention this. Back in the classroom, we meet some new characters. Yuriko, played by Ayumi Sonoda, Horiguchi, played by Fumindo Matsuo, and Kenji, played by Kozu Nomura. Yuriko's the sister of one of the killed explorers and wants to know what killed him. I mean, we did see the land shift, so yes? Sugimoto brings up the local myth of Baradagi, which the Iwaya people believe in. Naturally, Yuriko wants to find out the truth, as they're planning to solve the mystery of the 20th century.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
But seriously, she's going with them to find out what happened, and since Kenji doesn't want Horiguchi to go alone in protecting her, he asks to go as well. It takes them a while, from the train to the bus to walking on foot, but after a while of them walking, finding nothing, and Horiguchi acting like a coward to bird noises, they find... Phew! For a second there, I thought he was going to be our Kenny for the movie. Despite warning them about Baradagi, it's too late. We get to hear its cries and... It sounds like Godzilla from the first movie. Just altered a bit? Or maybe they just used the same technique of running a resin-covered glove on a double bass to create this monster's roar too. They're led into the village where a ritual is being held to try and keep the monster from attacking them. Oh hey, it's the statue from the title card! Anyway, our heroes show up, asking if anything other than the Baradagi killed Yuriko's brother, even though they just heard the loud monster-like sounds earlier, and they hear it again after the head priest tells them to leave. The subtitles say Gen, but Wikizilla lists him as Ken. Maybe he is a Kenny after all. I mean, even though his mother is yelling for him to come back, and he must know about what happens when you leave the village or whatever, he still chooses to go after his damn dog. And while our heroes are willing to go find him, I find it hard to believe that they would still not accept the idea of Baradagi being a thing when they've heard something tremendous twice and don't think it could be another giant monster. They start searching and things get foggy for them. Horiguchi gets scared by some stick because I guess he's the butt monkey of the movie. They lost Yuriko and end up back at the village. The head priest believes it's because of Baradagi, but Kenji won't accept it. Not to harp on it again, but you do remember what happened in Tokyo a few years ago, right? Unless you were living under a rock, I don't think you would have missed the greatest discovery of the 20th century of there being giant monsters, especially after 2 more showed up at Mount Aso. This does rally the villagers in wanting to do something, and thankfully, the dog, named Chibi, returns with a note from Yuriko saying they're by a lake and are waiting for the fog to lift. They follow Chibi, who leads them to Ken and Yuriko. Guess everything turned out okay. Oh hey, what's that in the water? Oh look, a giant monster! Just like everything that came before it. Everyone runs for their lives, and I gotta love how the head priest is still doing his little ritual dance, even if by this point it seems pointless since his god is literally coming this way. Now that the title Kaiju has actually shown up and is crawling after them, let's talk about its design. Conceived by special effects director Eiji Tsuburaya, with concept art by Akira Watanabe, the creature was meant to be like if Godzilla was a kappa, with it incorporating traits of both a water monster and a flying monster. We'll see how that works later, but otherwise, the suit itself was built by Kanju and Yasui Yagi, along with modelers Keizo Murase and Tezu Toshimitsu. Murase would construct the monster's back scales out of peanut shells, and its spines were made from different sized vinyl hoses wrapped in semi-transparent vinyl sheets. The eyes, which were made to look translucent so light can shine through, had their pupils drawn with magic marker. I find that bit funny. Suit actor Haruo Nakajima, who had previously portrayed both Godzilla and Rodan, would once again step into the role of the main kaiju, with Katsumi Tezuka standing in for water scenes. They try to keep the suit from being overly muscular by applying sawdust and paint to areas where the muscles could blend better. But ultimately, Tsuburaya felt disappointed that he couldn't achieve the design he wanted out of this. Personally, I think it looks alright, and we haven't gotten to the other thing that makes this creature stand out. Now that Kenji can see the monster in all its glory, what does he end up calling it? Wait, what? And how would you know that exactly? I get the urgency, but you could care about this place a little bit. And we want to see Varan trample a village. Not bad. I do enjoy a classic breaking of the sets, though it's not the most spectacular moment we've seen with these movies. I mean, for what is supposed to be a god to these people, it doesn't quite have the same weight or impact that Godzilla or even Rodan had. Godzilla naturally had his atomic breath that can make it difficult to rebuild on irradiated land. Rodan could fly at supersonic speeds that could cause destructive shockwaves wherever he flew. Varan just thrashes around like a typical animal would. I mean, granted, he is an animal, so maybe we'll have some moments of them questioning the morality of having to put down something that doesn't know better. Anyway, after the reports of Varan's attack, we check on Sugimoto's class. He explains that Varan, or Varanopode, is the name of a species of giant prehistoric reptile that existed millions of years ago, during the Mesozoic era. So, how did this one survive for this long? How did it get big? And how has no one else found this thing besides this secluded village? No time for that! We have members from the defense agency requesting Sugimoto and crew for assistance as they deploy troops to the area. Naturally, we have tanks, both real and in toy form. They form their defenses around the lake, since they believe Varan is at the bottom. They start firing cannons into the lake, which seem to contain chemical explosives, to try and gas it out. Once it does come out, they use the rest of their artillery and I feel like they seem to be missing most of their shots. How the hell are you missing him? He's barely moving! And the journalists who thought they could get a good shot close up have to run away, run away, run away! You put in less effort to fight this monster than even Godzilla! You guys continue to disappoint your country! Also, where the hell is this wind coming from? It can't just be from Varan walking. Also, one of your vehicles fall into a ditch while retreating. And Yuriko gets lost again! As well as having a tree fall on top of her. And Kenji is too far away to see or hear her. The army wonders what to do, since Sugimoto says that Varan is indestructible. Oh, if only we still had access to the oxygen destroyer. Quick, find someone to recreate it from scratch. Kenji goes looking for Yuriko, who happens to pass out due to shock, I guess. That wind ain't letting up for him, yet it's perfectly fine around Varan. Kenji rescues Yuriko before they can get pancaked, and they both make a run for it. Good thing Varan can't reach them inside this cave, but he can tear the cave down. I do like this third-person shot of them looking toward Varan. That's a horrifying moment when you can see that much of the monster clawing toward you. The others arrive and have to divert Varan away somehow. They try using flares, since animals are sensitive to light, and have him follow the shots toward the mountains. Thus, they're able to rescue the two and get out of here. But now we have a new problem, as the flares have started a forest fire. Not only that, but Varan crawls up the side of the mountain, and then... oh my god. Varan can fly? That's right, this is the other special feature of Varan. Again, aside from being an aquatic animal, he has the traits of a flying animal, with skin membranes underneath his arms that allow him to glide. supposedly up to Mach 1.5 like Rodan. Not that it looks like he can, but still, this is at least something that makes Varan rather unique, but he can also glide like Rocky the Flying Squirrel. This ability was pulled off with a half-scale Varan prop on wires. Like in Godzilla, an anti-Varan headquarters is formed to deal with the threat. They have the Air Force and the Navy, but even though they haven't done anything yet, they report that Varan can repel the 36mm cannon. They do have weapons that can penetrate steel, but they're unsure of anything. They're trying to push for Varan being this super mysterious monster that defies all logic, which would fit with how the US was titled Varan the Unbelievable. They can only hope they can develop some new weapons that aren't conventional and can overcome his unique body. In the meantime, though, it's time for Varan to cause havoc as it capsizes a fishing boat. The Air Force is sent to intercept and use rocket bombs, and they don't do jack. And because they're stupid enough to fly low, Varan's able to smack one of them down. It's the Navy's turn to try, but Varan is hiding under a rock. The effect for it is pretty funny, but very practical. Finally, an actual hit! And an effective hit, but hey, you can actually say he's immune to your attacks now. Now it's heading towards Tokyo, and Yuriko wants Horiguchi to go and get photos by helicopter. But for now, Varan continues playing with his bath toys. They try using depth charges, and surprise, it doesn't work. And I feel like the movie is starting to stagnate. Hardly any progress is being made in stopping Varan, who hasn't shown anything new since gliding out of his old home. Character-wise, Kenji and the others haven't done much, almost as if they're out of character development. Though with about 22 minutes left, they finally unveil something new to use. They're small explosives that are the size of dynamite, but 20 times more powerful. As shown in the video projection, it causes the whole side of a mountain to collapse. The plan is to blow up Varan from the inside, which could probably work with every other monster we see going forward, but I guess it's only going to be for Varan that they try this method. However, its creator, Fujimura, played by Akihiko Harada, is reluctant to use this weapon, just like with Zirazawa and the Oxygen Destroyer. Appropriate as Harada played both characters, though this guy's easily more convinced. They move to Hanada Airport, since that's where Varan is heading, so they can prepare their new plan of attack. Varan starts heading to shore, and they start firing at him to no avail. Wait, that military footage looks awfully familiar. Nah, it couldn't be. The truck containing the bomb arrives, but the initial drivers are too scared to keep going, so it's up to Kenji to deliver the payload. He leaves the truck in front of Varan and runs, leading to... Damn, it actually works. Here's a not-so-fun fact. This explosion actually injured Haruo Nakajima, as his stomach was badly burned due to how the suit was designed. Jeez, poor guy. First, he collapses from heat exhaustion while filming Godzilla, then falls 20 feet into a pool after his wire snapped while filming Rodan, and now he has taken an explosion to the gut. He just can't catch a break. Thankfully, this was the only instance of Nakajima getting injured while filming. Varan gets back up, and everyone's forced to evacuate again. Good lord, they be reusing clips from Godzilla. I'm serious, half of this fight is made up of stock footage from the original Godzilla. From the machine guns, to the cannons, the jets, some of the tanks, and the moment this one building crumbles. Again, they had a low budget, given what this was intended for, so it's understandable that they'd have to cut corners. Still, they could have done a bit better to hide it. Sugimoto gets an idea. Seeing Varan eating the flares, just like back at the mountain, he thinks they can airdrop the bombs into his mouth through the flares and then detonate them inside his stomach. They'll have to pin Varan down until they're ready. The Air Force is more than ready for that. Hell, one pilot is so good, he can fly his jet backwards. They eventually get the bombs ready, setting them up with the other flares, and they end up being swallowed by Varan. I made it worse. Actually, the first bomb was a success, as Varan writhes in agony, and after causing a bit more destruction... Oh, come on! That's so obviously Godzilla's tail here! Anyway, he leaves for the ocean as he begins to die, and after an obvious jump cut... Thus, Varan disappeared into a veil of mystery. After a desperate struggle, man has now won another victory. The end! Wow, what a truly profound way to end the movie. Too bad it wasn't as good as they wanted it to be. I can forgive them for repeating some aspects of earlier kaiju films, so long as they can make the monster interesting enough that we can enjoy the rampage. But apart from its design, Varan doesn't really do much to differentiate itself from past kaiju. It doesn't have the destructive power and might that Godzilla had, and it doesn't even show how destructive it can be in the air, especially when he only flies once in the entire movie. All he did was destroy a village and an airport, neither of which was substantially huge compared to Inner Tokyo. Also, there was little effort to make him sympathetic despite having more animalistic traits than his predecessors. I mean, Varan was just minding his own business in his lake home till people intruded and got him mad. It escalated, sure, but there wasn't much reflection on whether what they were doing was moral or not. At least with Godzilla, it was acknowledged that it was caused by man's own hubris when it came to war and atomic weapons. Rodan, meanwhile, was born in an era it didn't belong in and was just trying to live with its mate before being put down by humans. And then here, Varan was almost seen as a menace that needed to be killed. And that's it. On the subject of humanity, Kenji and crew had little character development compared to the earlier human casts. Hell, I'd argue and say they had no development. Kenji's driven by his love of Yuriko, Yuriko has her reporter job, and was somewhat driven to find the truth about her brother's death, and Horiguchi remained a poorly done comic relief character. Everyone else barely mattered beyond what roles they needed to fill. And that leads to probably the worst aspect of the movie, the pacing. It feels very slow with how drawn out the attack scenes were, and they show nothing happening to affect Varan. His destruction scenes aren't as fun because of how low scale they feel, so you're just begging for the plot to continue. The stuff leading up to his reveal and his initial destruction scenes were fine, but they don't really build up from there. The only real positive I can say is that Ifukube's music score tries its damnedest to make it seem epic. There was real effort to be had in the design of Varan too, but ultimately, between ABPT falling through and having to rush a theatrical cut, they just couldn't save this movie. Now, Varan would make his way to the US, as I mentioned, under the name Varan the Unbelievable, which was also received poorly, like this version. Aside from only using 15 minutes of the original and replacing all of Akiya Ifukube's music, Varan doesn't even get named. He doesn't fly like before, and they even changed his roar. Fortunately, despite the movie's reputation, Varan would make another film appearance in 1968's Destroy All Monsters, but only using the half-scale prop in a few shots, as the original suit had rotted away by this point in time. But after that, he would continually get shafted in movies he was going to appear in. He and Rodan were supposed to appear in The Return of King Ghidorah, before that was turned into Godzilla vs. Gigan, and Anguirus would replace the two kaiju. But probably the biggest example of him being screwed over was Giant Monsters All-Out Attack in 2001, where he would have appeared alongside Anguirus and Baragon as ancient guardian monsters to take on Godzilla, but Mothra and King Ghidorah would replace him and Anguirus to better the film's markability. Oh well, at least Baragon got to stay. I kind of feel bad now. Sure, his movie wasn't great, but he's still a monster who could have been given some kind of respect outside his first movie. All the right ingredients were there to make a great kaiju movie, from the producer, the director, the writers, the special effects director, and the composer. And then ABPT just had to go and fall apart. And I guess there just wasn't that much that could be done, since they couldn't start over. No other choice but to persevere. However, that wouldn't be the end for the kaiju, as Varan would appear in various Godzilla video games, like the original NES game, and Godzilla Unleashed for the Wii, as well as a few novels like Godzilla 2000 and Journey to Monster Island by Random House. And then, there are his many appearances in the IDW Godzilla comics that are still being published, including one storyline where he fights Godzilla as a demonic apparition in hell. Then there's the 2021 anime, Godzilla Singular Point, where the titular kaiju goes through different evolutions before finally reaching his final form. He starts as a solely aquatic kaiju, but then, when he reaches land, he evolves into his second form, which just so happens to resemble Varan, even having his roaring theme song. That's a hell of a poll they did, and good on them for it. By the end of it all, while Varan didn't have as many film appearances as Godzilla, or Rodan, or Mothra, he at least got a nice cult following, and I can understand why. I mean, with all his appearances in books, games, comics, and more, it just goes to show that there are people out there who care enough about him, just as they do any of the classic Toho kaiju. From his unique design to his mighty potential, Varan is the kaiju underdog we need. Next time, we leave Japan and head over to South Korea, where we're going to have quite the interesting run with our King Kong knockoff. I'll see you next time for Ape.
You were being betrayed! Ha! I was right! Yes, Steve, but you were wrong the 80 other times that happened.